thank you so much for having me today. So I'm Megan, and my pronouns are she and her. So my book, Free to Roam, Poems from a Heathen Mommy, this is what it looks like. It was published by Free Thought House and released back in February. Also, if you're ever on Free Thought blogs, I'm Ashes. I write from the Ashes of Faith on that website. I live in Toledo. I've lived in Toledo for about 8 years. My husband, we've been married almost 12 years, and we have a 5-year-old daughter. But my husband and I are both Northwest Ohio natives. He grew up in Perrysburg Township and went to Rossford High School, and I grew up out in Henry County and went to Napoleon High School. So I spend a lot of time at home, a lot of writing. I do have a part-time job in an arts program for a local nonprofit, but my job's really been affected by the pandemic. So growing up in rural Northwest Ohio, that's a pretty conservative area, and that's kind of where I want to start. So I'm going to read from my book now. My poetry book is about being an atheist mom in the Midwest, and there's 4 sections, and the first section is called Curls and Cornfields. So this first poem is called Beautiful Country. I missed the nights when lightning bugs speckled the endless horizon, and my eyes bathed in the indigo sky. My favorite color has always been newly sprouted winter wheat, an affirmation of new beginnings. I loved waking up after a snowstorm, blinding white and alone in the silence of the barren landscape. From the delicate irises of spring to the golden blazes of September, every bug in Henry County fluttered its way into our little house. Dark nights of thunder and wind made my heart pound to pieces and sparked a fascination with the dangers of the heartland. Growing up in the country was a crimson struggle of wits and tears, but I will always cherish the beauty of my childhood home. So this poem's really important to me. This is the first poem in the book. But I complain a lot about growing up in the country because it was conservative. But I want people to know that it wasn't all bad. I had a lot of fun there too. I had a good childhood. And I love the line, every bug in Henry County, because I can hear my dad yelling that in my head when I read that. So I gotta wipe off my glasses a second. They were fogging up. What?
I can relate.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Darn daughter, every bug in the county's going.
My dad said that all the time. So most of these poems were written during the Ohio stay-at-home order, and that was really a period of growth for me as a writer and as a mom, because I had more time for both. This next one is called Thrive, a message to my younger self. Thrive among the stairs meant to strip your future naked. Thrive among the words meant to leave your outlook tainted. Thrive outside the conformity of the minds no longer free. Thrive free of the book that binds their hands and knees. Thrive in your community on the outside looking in. Thrive among your neighbors, ignoring their own sin. Thrive because you're strong and love will always win. So these poems actually started as a chapbook, and I was going to look for a traditional poetry publisher. But when I learned about Free Thought House, I thought I should change direction and go with a secular publisher. So Free Thought House, their website is freethoughthouse.com. They only publish books for the secular community, and I think they have like 10 or 12 books out now. And I've bought 4 of them so far, like other than my own, and they're really good. So check them out.
Do you know how long it's been around?
I want to say 2012, maybe. I'm not quite sure. It might say on their website, actually. So this next one is called In the Back of a Pickup. Brittle bones chilled beneath frost moon eyes. She clings to the bed of a truck. Sticky pebbles clatter off the hungry tires. Pink sunset flickers through the singing leaves above. Rough road ahead. Alfalfa fields quickly pass by. Purple and green smear across the horizon. She tightens her grip as her insecurities whip in the wind. She's been imprisoned by a home with the biggest sky, but barely a pinprick on the map. One day, despair will grow wings, and a sheltered childhood will be fuel for her adventures. She shivers in the cold and never looks back. So it was always a treat for me growing up to ride in the back of a pickup. We did that a lot out in the country. But my daughter, she's 5. Like, I would never in a million years let her do that. So it was fun when I was young. So this next one is called Christian Admirer. This is about when young boyfriends want to convert you. Eyes of lust and honeydew don't mean I grant you permission to invade my liberated world. Drop the slate and let the luster fade. If you want in my life, I'm gonna need you raw, be real. Give up because you'll never change me. Your envy shines like emeralds. I bet purity burns like hell. So the first section is probably my favorite, so I'm gonna do one more from it. This is called My Scars, My Story. My curls screamed as they were straightened. My songs were stripped from my lungs. Fresh freedom was depleted when I gasped. Shackles of indoctrination imprisoned my peers. I was alone. Time was never on my side in that small, tired town. Even when I left, cruel judgment branded a lasting impression. Scars that are just part of my story that I'll finish in my own words. And I'm going to move on to the second section. The second section is called Why I Hate Sunday Morning. It's all about my thoughts on Christianity. Even though my family's not religious, I was surrounded by Christianity growing up, especially in school and from my friends. I went to public school, but there was prayer at almost all the school functions. I remember religious posters on the walls in our high school. I can remember teachers in elementary school talking about Jesus. Like it was pretty bad. It was all around me, even though, I wasn't getting it from my family. So this is called How Do You Sleep? Indigo rain cleansing my brain after a restless night of soul searching. Relief comes when you realize God isn't real, and you're released from your rusty chains. An outlook of debilitating winter melts and sizzles into freedom. Like fresh linen under the morning sun, I put my heart out on the line and won. I'm the shy queen of my ruby paradise, which resides right here on earth. I no longer yearn for a flimsy mystery in the clouds. Breathe deep into the truth and sleep peacefully. So this next one's called Grounded. Ivory giggles and pink powder secrets, power an endless charade. Let it all hang out between the pews. Just once, let the cold stares see your delicate pearl. Let lace and tumbleweed caress your bare skin. Let fellow parishioners blush with envy. Let reality swallow you whole, and you'll realize you don't need to look to the skies. Satisfaction is found right here on the ground. So while I'm working, I don't believe in writer's block or for waiting for inspiration or anything like that. For me, it's just getting the motivation to just sit down and get started. I feel like it's like priming a well. Once you get started, more ideas will come to you. Another part of my creative process is meditation. I meditate with mala beads pretty much every day. They help me focus and they help me with my anxiety. I found them really helpful. You know, a lot of people, mala beads have, you know, like a spiritual meaning, but to me they really don't. They're just a tool. So this is called Stuck in the Closet. There are crowds of atheists cloaked in the long shadows of steeples, even more than we know. They swallow the truth because they think they have to, because maybe they were raised that way. 1, 2, 10 years in a dark closet, their thoughts echo in the loneliness. They secretly question as a tortured mind now liberated, yet another voice suppressed. They're scared, but even more angry. I know that innermost turmoil. That anger will fuel progress, a passionate fire that lights the way. The most liberated life is an honest one. This next poem is actually a list, and I feel it's been painfully honest for me. This is called 7 Reasons I Don't Speak Up. Number 1, to avoid confrontation. 2, so I don't have to explain myself. 3, because we still have to work together, and I don't want it to be awkward. 4, to avoid discrimination. 5, so I can survive Thanksgiving dinner. 6, because you won't take me seriously. 7, because I was told not to. When this book came out, I became just more open in general about my atheism, and I really was expecting some opposition. I worry about my job and finding future work. You know, like I said, I've been a little more outspoken, but really nothing has happened yet, so it's good. This next poem is about an old friend who went from skeptic to Christian. She was a good friend growing up, and I met her for lunch a few years back. And she told me that she had this job that she was just miserable in, and she just really hated going to work. And then she found this amazing job, and she felt wonderful. And she said, I couldn't have done it by myself. God must have helped me. So this is called You Didn't Need God. You said you couldn't do it alone, but you did. We are all powerful in our own lives. Scale that jagged cliff, surf those tempest-swept waters. You are in charge. You are secretly sure-footed, resourceful with undiscovered confidence. What you think is strength in God is really strength within yourself. You are more capable than you know. So now I'm going to move on to the third section. It's called The Nice Heathen Family Next Door. And this section's all about my life as a mom in Toledo. So this is called Playdate. In a quiet neighborhood tucked between accountability and appearances, I live among you, the outwardly faithful. With my soccer mom SUV, weekly gymnastics classes, over-the-top birthday parties, picky eater battles, car seat wrestling, and inevitable grocery store meltdowns. My silent anger presses behind my warm, neighborly smile. Your small talk is carefree and careless. Would you let your bratty kid play with my bratty kid if you knew I was an atheist? I do worry sometimes about how my daughter will be affected by my atheism when she just started kindergarten, so she's meeting other kids and families, and I don't know if it'll ever come up, but I do worry about it sometimes. This next one is called Midwest Mom. And I'm sure you guys all know that stereotype of the Midwest mom. And I feel like in this poem I'm describing myself, but I don't always fit that stereotype. When I think of a Midwest mom, I think of her having like a short haircut and being into sports, taking her kids to different sporting events and stuff like that.
Karen?
What?
Karen?
Karen? Yes.
What's the male equivalent of a Karen?
Chad.
Oh,
Isn't it Chad?
We decided it was Fred.
The older one's Chad for the, it's an age thing.
But this one, I'm mainly describing myself here. This is called Midwest Mom. Passive aggressive with a nervous giggle. I'm a casserole of sweet and salty. My soft meat and potatoes pudge keeps me warm in the snow. I'm a Midwest mom from a family caught between the farm and the city. My daughter's urban upbringing looks a lot different from my childhood in the country. Generations of strong women before me have given me a lot to live up to. We're steeped in tradition, but must keep moving forward. My little girl's smile lights the way, reaffirming growth in the blackest of swamps. Tomorrow looks bright if you squint a little. So this is only the second time I've talked to a local group, so I'm sure you guys know what the Black Swamp is. But I kind of have a fun time when I'm speaking to other groups that aren't from this area, and explaining the Black Swamp, because that was an important part of my family's history. My family's farm was established in 1852 in southern Wood County, so they played a part in that. Okay, this next one is called Am I Holding It Together? Am I holding it together just enough? My little girl, new to the world, am I showing her what she needs to see? Does each fragile moment, every breakdown, every tear count? Or should I look at the bigger picture, her impending future? Is this struggle a drop in the bucket or the straw that breaks the camel's back? What matters is what she sees through her eyes, not mine. She paves her own way. I merely provide the asphalt. So now I'm moving on to the last section of the book, which is called Midwest Mom, Meatloaf and Revolution. And this section is about this optimism. This is called We'll Keep You Well. We are all connected, one brain to another, and most of ours are broken. Our solutions are easy or complicated, but our wellness is a delicate state. Stability often comes from a pill bottle, and that's okay. Balance is the hard part. Be your own normal in an unforgiving world of rigid expectations. Come out of the dark and brush your tired smile. We're here to lift you up. Crawl if you can't walk, but keep moving forward. Your day in the sun is coming. So before I wrote this book and started blogging for Free Thought Blogs, I actually wrote for a website called Healthy Place, which is kind of a popular mental health site. I wrote for them for 2.5 years or so. But mental health is really important in my life. It's important to my job. I'm a peer supporter. So I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. This is called Our Rope. Tired feet, a testament of our honest ambitions. We walk the same street trying to live above water. Fingers clinging to the sky. Only bubbles acknowledge our fragile existence. Throw me a rope, and I'll throw you one too. Only rain trickles down from the top, but you and I, we can make the sun shine. This next poem is what the book was named after, Free to Roam. And I feel It does a really good job just summing up what this project meant to me. So this is Freedom Room. Let questions swirl in my brain as my eyes strain at the glow of the screen. I'm a tired mom from the heartland with the world at my fingertips. Opportunities and choices are overwhelming in a world becoming so small. My corner of the planet is now yours as I peer into your faraway life. Once impossible connections are made as I share my story with the world, isolated but no longer alone. So this is the last poem I'm going to read from the book. Like I said, this book was written during the pandemic, and normally when I'm writing something, I go to the library, to the writers groups. There's some great writers groups at the main library, and also Point Place. There's a writers group at Point Place too. But since it was a pandemic, there was no writers group, so my husband was reading my work. And he's not a big poetry person, but he was very helpful. My husband's a fire and rescue dispatcher for the city of Toledo, so he had to work the entire time. So he would actually take my poems to work and read them to his coworkers too. So I was really grateful for them. But this poem is my husband's favorite. This is called Girl Mom. How do I protect my daughter from having the stories all women have, from fearing the night and walking alone? How do I protect my daughter when rapists run for president, when boys will be boys, when accusation is too frequently overlooked? How do I protect my daughter when she doesn't have a say, when her body is property and legislation dictates her future? How do I protect my daughter from 78 cents to the dollar, from taxes that come in pink, from old and rotten expectations? How do I protect my daughter from the shards of glass when she destroys the glass ceiling and leads the way in a man's world? How do I support my daughter when she no longer needs my protection? So being a mom definitely gives me a lot to write about. So that's all I'm going to read from the book. I have some other stuff to read. But the book, it's Megan Rahm, Poems from a Heathen Mommy. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and my publisher's website, freethoughthouse.com. If you go to freethoughthouse.com, you can get signed copies. This is what it looks like, minus the sticker my daughter put on there. So now I want to talk to you about something I'm working on right now. I'm writing a memoir about being an atheist with a mental illness, and this is also going to be published by Free Thought House. You guys might notice me shake. It's not just nerves, it's from the lithium I take. I've got muscle tremors in my hands. Becoming an atheist has been crucial to my recovery. My primary diagnosis is schizoaffective disorder. I struggle with psychosis, which for me means visual and auditory hallucinations. And prior to treatment, I would call these hallucinations spirits and ghosts. That was my only connection to religion. I didn't really, I wasn't a Christian or anything. I just, I saw these ghosts and spirits, and I thought my eyes and my ears wouldn't lie to me. So I thought they were real. But then when I got treatment, I started taking antipsychotic medication, and I realized the ghosts weren't real. So to me, that meant God wasn't real as well. And like many people with a mental health diagnosis, I have more than one. I've struggled with eating disorders since I was in middle school. And in the memoir, I write about that a lot. I write about the eating disorder just as much as I do schizoaffective disorder. But the memoir, it's like a narrative or series of essays. It's not just poetry, but I did include some poetry. So I want to read a few of those poems to you. So this first poem is called Fight. It's about how an eating disorder can be a lifelong battle, and it's okay to ask for help a second time. So this is fight. Falling down to the sickness, tiptoe around the shards. Rip your pretty dress on the thorns. You'll eat your feelings or starve. Waking up to the wreckage, the past still whispers in your ear. Sweep and mop the stage because today your number is up. Standing up to the darkness because your light is brighter than you think. Sing your beautiful song even when no one can hear you. Rising up for tomorrow, stomp out the nagging shivers. Fake it at your best because the best is yet to come. Giving the world a show because you can and you must. You're a star in your own right, and today you chose to fight. So this next poem is also about eating disorders. It's about sex and recovery. When I was really struggling with my eating disorder, I always wanted to have sex in the dark because I was worried about what I looked like. And I didn't really enjoy it. But it's very different for me now. So this is called Naked Confidence. Nourish me, my body, soft and feminine, has an appetite. Touch me. Graze your fingertips over my smooth, milky curves. Flip the switch, no longer in the dark. I let go and have fun. The taste of your lips gives me tingles. I want you, but I must put myself first sometimes. My amazing body needs to be loved by me before I can enjoy time with you. So I smile, giggle, and show you what I want. This is my revolution. And this is the last poem I'm going to share from the memoir. It's about connections that you make in recovery. This is called Together. There's a fire in my eyes. Smoke collects in my brain. My burning can be felt for miles, but I see your flame too. Talk me down from the very top. Catch me if I fall. Outstretched arms and stretched out smiles. Are you as tired as me? Dig deep because our ripple just became a wave. Our words are in harmony when we rise up together. Compassion is catching. You should take a bite. One out of love and one out of life. So now I want to tell you a little bit more about my blog. From the Ashes of Faith at freethoughtblogs.com. How long have I been writing for that? I think it's almost 2 years. I think it'll be 2 years in December. But I love it. It's so much fun, and I have so much freedom with that blog, and I love P.C. Myers. So, my blog is mostly about mental health, life, family, and I also ask questions about atheism. I have a series on the blog called A Secular Childhood, Letters to My Daughter. And it's all about things I want to say about what I want my daughter to learn from growing up in a secular household. So I'm going to read one of the letters to you. This letter is about death. Dear daughter, I feel like death is a complicated subject when it shouldn't be. It's our feelings surrounding death that make things complicated. I'm scared of death, which is natural, but I'm not worried about where I'm going in the afterlife. I'm scared because there's so much I want to do in life. Will I get to do all of those things? Will I have spent enough time with my loved ones? I recognize my worries are pretty pointless because when you're dead, you're not aware of your goals and wants anyway. Death is only sad to those still living. The belief in souls, heaven, and hell really makes the idea of death murky. I have a simpler explanation. Humans are a part of nature, another speck in the universe, and death is just a part of our life cycle. We return to the earth which we've always been a part of. Instead of worrying about death, it's better to concentrate on enjoying yourself now. Your time could be up at any time, so live your life to the fullest. My beautiful daughter, I'm really enjoying the time I'm spending with you right now, and that's all that really matters. Love, Mom. I use my blog as a platform for other work. I've shared a lot of my poems from Free to Roam on my blog. But there's some other projects I'm working on that I've written about. One is a book called Unsettled, which is poetry about my family. There's a post that kind of introduces that on my blog. It's from June 19th. It's called Racism and the KKK, What I've Learned from My Family's Dark Past. And so that kind of like introduces, people to that book. And then also I'm writing an erotic poetry book called The Housewife Who Ruled a Kingdom. And back on Valentine's Day, I posted a video of me reading some of the poems from that book. So that's all I have for you. That's my book. Yeah, Free to Roam, Poems from a Heathen Mommy. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, freethoughthouse.com. Do you guys have any questions?
I do.
Yeah.
First of all, I loved your book. I read it, and it's a quick read.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that I'll want to go back and I'm sure that going down the road somewhere I'm going to be like, oh wait a minute, I wrote this poem about this, and I want to go back to it. So I do have some questions.
Okay.
So first of all, were you raised secular or just not religious?
I would say just not religious. My parents weren't religious, but I think they would still call themselves Christian. My family still celebrated Christmas and Easter, but it was more about Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and not really Jesus, So we still had like Christian traditions, but I wasn't made to go to church or anything like that.
Okay. So as a child, how old were you when you realized, I know you can write as an adult going back thinking about things, but how old were you when you realized that your life was very different from everybody else's and that you weren't that you were not religious, you maybe even didn't believe?
I want to say it was pretty early. I have this memory. It was definitely when I was in school. Like I don't really remember much before school, before like 5 years old. But I do remember when I was in kindergarten. My teacher, I can't remember if it was Christmas or Easter, but she was sitting in the chair she reads from, and there was a rug that we all sat around. And she was like, I want to tell you the real meaning of Easter. And she started talking about Jesus. And this is a public school, and I mean, I just remember that moment. I was thinking, yeah, Easter Bunny. So I thought it was really strange. And I think even like that young, I realized that I was not like, the other kids in their families.
Right. So now that I'm also a mom, and so now that you have a child, do you find it, and you're more open with your atheism, do you find that you need to kind of subdue that word and like use terms that are less offensive to Christian people? Like, well, we're not really religious, or, well, we just, we're really more of a secular lifestyle, or are you more like, I'm an atheist?
Yeah. My daughter's still pretty young. She's 5. So she hasn't really asked about it or talked about it. I thought it was kind of funny because we were in a store once, and she wanted to buy cards for everybody. Just out of nowhere, I'm just going to buy cards for everybody in the family. It was really cute. But she picked out a card that was Noah's Ark. And she had no idea what it was. She was like, oh, it's got a rainbow and animals. And we we bought it, but it's just funny because she had no idea, I don't know what to say, if it comes up when she's a little older or what she might tell other families. Honestly, I haven't really thought about that yet.
What about when you meet with other people,
Oh,
like adults,
I just say I'm an
like
atheist.
the other soccer moms?
Yeah. Well, right now my daughter's not in gymnastics anymore. She's in swimming lessons, and luckily it hasn't come up there. So.
Okay. The poem that you wrote about you didn't meet God,
Mhm.
about your friend, I just a note on that. That is one that maybe could be used with secular sobriety groups.
Oh.
That's one of the things Doug and I have talked about it on several occasions about how, a lot of times people are forced through the court system, through
Yeah.
the judicial system, to enter a 12-step program, which is
Yeah.
deeply rooted
Yeah.
in religion and belief. And we both agree that it's a sad thing for anyone to give up their success with sobriety,
Mhm.
give that power over to someone else. You did it. You may
Yeah.
have had help along the way from other people that
Right.
supported you, but that strength came from you.
Yeah.
It wasn't given to you by some supreme power that doesn't exist.
This-
It's all you. And I think that that's an important thing for sobriety.
Yeah.
Of course, I would never interfere with a person's sobriety by telling them God doesn't exist. I would never do that.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
That's so funny that you bring that up, though, because I write about that in my memoir. Just even me, like I've never been through like a 12-step program or something like that, but it always feels like they try to push like you have to have a spiritual side or some sort of belief to be like a complete and whole person, and that's crappy. But in the memoir, I actually rewrite the 12 steps. I call them the 12 steps of empowerment.
oh, there you
So,
go.
yeah.
There you go. And there is a group locally in Toledo, not far from, it's in West Toledo in Sylvania,
Oh, okay.
that meets at what's it called, the Awana Club?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's right, Sylvania and Douglas area.
Okay. I live by
between
there.
the police station subdivision and Douglas on Sylvania.
Okay. Cool.
So, maybe if you, are interested maybe in sharing some of that, because there aren't a lot of resources.
No, there aren't.
Yeah.
No.
So the only other thing that I wanted to ask you about was the poem Baptism. That hit me real strong.
Really?
Yeah. I have a granddaughter,
Mhm.
and we have a granddaughter. She's not quite a year and a half yet. And she was born in Colorado, and they didn't move back here until she was a year old.
Mhm.
But baptism is one of those things that, my daughter and her husband would never go through baptism ceremony.
Yeah.
They're raising her secular. But there's still like I think a sense of community and welcoming. Do you feel at all like maybe you and your family might have missed out on some of that coming together family to be, happy about, your
No.
daughter being born? Or, would you, and this is coming from as a humanist celebrant. Is there a type of like community welcoming ceremony or gathering that you would like to see for families, new families?
We never, obviously we didn't baptize our daughter. And most of my family knows I'm an atheist, but my grandma, of course, was like pushing for us to baptize her. Like, no way in hell. But I don't know. We never had anything formal like to celebrate. I don't know. That's really interesting. Our family's around all the time, so I guess I never really felt a need to do something like that. That's really interesting, though. Yeah.
I really love your term, heathen mommy. In my family, we were all raised ultra Catholic.
Oh.
And I went through the Lutherans and the Universalists and, all the way down to, you know what, this is all bullshit. But I have 3 daughters, and they all kind of came along with me on this. And
Oh,
now
wow.
they're grown women, and they're all heathens. And we love being heathens. And then I found out the majority of my siblings are heathens. And so we have, when we go to the ultra-religious family parties, we all sit at the same table. We call it the heathen corner. And it's just, I wonder how different things would have been if we would have been raised secular versus, because half of my family's in counseling.
Wow.
In therapy because all this crap they went through as kids. I mean, Santa Claus came to our house. We had to kneel on the floor, and he had a cane, and if you didn't say your prayers right, he hit you with the cane.
Oh my God.
That was Santa Claus in my childhood.
Wow.
And then as I grew up, I found out that was my uncle dressed up, and my dad would go to his house and do the same thing to his kids.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what a loving Christian family this is. But yeah, so I really wonder sometimes how different things would have been if we'd all been heathens from the beginning.
Just wondering, well, I'll let you know how my granddaughter turns out.
I just wonder, you mentioned your daughter and not knowing the story about Noah's Ark, and I was wondering if there are any publications or there's anything, I think there probably is somewhere about how to teach secular kids about this story and that story and the story of the rabbit in the moon, which is, I think, one of the Native American stories. And I mean, just to have a nice book of, these are all the different stories that people like to tell about things, and so she'll be familiar with, oh yeah, I heard that story with the story.
Actually,
That's a good idea.
Richard Dawkins did write one for,
Oh, that's
not
right,
little
yes.
kids, but like 12-year-old level or so.
Yeah,
Magic of
yes, he
Reality.
did. Yeah, The Magic of Reality. That's the name of that book he wrote.
There actually are a lot of, and they've been around a long time. I read these books with my kids, different stories. They're books that are written to explain other traditions and cultures,
Okay.
and they incorporate it on a real general level.
Because
Some people believe that there's this,
Huh?
and some people believe that there's this. And then the idea of the whole book is to just have respect for whatever you believe and let others have theirs.
So that she
It's
knows
kind
the
of-
stories, so the kids know the
That's-
stories, but it's not like, well, there are all these wonderful stories. So if some
Yeah.
kids say, you don't know about Noah's Ark, yes, I do.
That's such a good idea because I want my daughter to be educated about religion. I want her to know what it is and know the stories.
We will kind of vaccinate her against it as well.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I really envision a world, probably not in your daughter's or my granddaughter's generation, but maybe the next one, where those stories are truly folklore.
Right.
And
Yeah.
there's no more Jeopardy that has a whole category about the Bible. Because my question then is, which Bible? Because, I went to a bookstore and I could find hundreds of different kinds of Bibles
Right.
about thousands of different religions. So, I really envision someday a world where indoctrination doesn't exist and the word God is never capitalized, and it is always meant to reference something that is something that our ancestors thought about way
Right.
back when. But now we all know better. And so there's no need to understand any of those religious stories.
Right.
And there's just traditions. The traditions are great. I don't have a problem with traditions. I think they're wonderful. They give you something to look forward to at different times of the year or when certain things that happen. But to have them more, 100% secularized, to focus on humanity and gathering and fellowship and companionship and compassion and empathy.
You were talking about going to a public school and still seeing the references to
Mhm.
religion. And I was just talking with some people from another writers group a couple weeks ago, and they were saying how in the schools, even if it's not overt, there's a kind of subtle thing going on where, like in biology class, they teach them about the workings of the cell down to those minutia things, but they don't talk about evolution because they're afraid of raising anybody's hands.
Yeah.
And the textbooks don't mention it very much because most of the publishers publish according to the Texas standards, and the Texas standards are very bad.
Yeah.
They're also very influential, so they have all the textbooks across the country reflecting that, lowest common denominator.
Right.
Let's not piss anybody off.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember studying evolution in school.
And how old are you?
What?
How old are you?
I'm 38.
38, okay,
Mhm.
so, I mean, I know I was taught about creationism in my public school,
Oh my gosh.
in Washington local schools.
Really?
Evolution was not, I had never heard of evolution until I was an adult.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I went to public school, I went to 3 years of private Catholic school,
Yeah.
and that was
Yeah,
7th and 8th and 9th grade.
I'm a generation ahead of you, and we did learn about evolution, but not well at all. But we did touch on it, and I think it was a kind of evolution that you could easily make compatible, like God directed evolution or something. They never said, they never said that in so many words, but it was, we got a little bit on evolution. I think it disappeared for your generation, or maybe in certain schools, but in the Toledo school system, we had some, but it was
Wow.
pretty pathetic. Yeah.
I
Wow.
remember we had a quote-unquote debate over creation and evolution.
Oh, gosh.
Oh no.
No.
And, they brought up the old song about, well, if we came from apes, why are there still apes, that kind of thing. But I don't know, I don't think that the teacher ever made us draw a conclusion or suggested a conclusion as to which was correct, but still there was this debate.
So I think each generation has been a little different. And you say, well, maybe in the future things will be better. Honestly, we were having the same discussion 100 years ago. I mean, that, we're just on the cusp of, religion's fable, back in Ingersoll's day. So it's just like, yeah.
There's always backlashes.
Yes, exactly. So it's always,
Well, I
it's always
think one of
fun.
the things that I see changing is because of the internet. I think that my kids, they're both extremely intelligent. Their level of intelligence just baffles my own mind. And so early on, both of my kids, because they had access to the internet. My daughter was born in '96, so the internet was just getting out there.
Yeah.
And by the time both of them were well into school and learning the intricacies of science and math and how the world works, by that time, both of my kids were like, Mom, I asked my teacher about such and such, and she really had no idea. She said, well, we can't really talk about that. And so that was the beginning of the journey for my kids to start failing in school because they had zero respect for their teachers because they were teaching old curriculum from textbooks.
Oh
My
wow.
kids were on the internet soaking up everything. They weren't out there just playing games and, looking for things that 10-year-old boys should be looking for. If they were reading about everything in the world. And so their minds were just so open, and when during their formative years, and just soaking up all that knowledge. And they're like, my teacher has no idea. They don't know what we're talking about when we ask these questions.
Wow.
And so they began to fail in school because they felt like their education in school was worthless.
Wow.
And they were just kind of going through the motions to get to graduation.
Wow. That's crazy. Wow. I like, I don't know, my daughter goes to McGregor, and
That's where I went.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I'm surprised though, like she's only 5 years old and they gave her a Chromebook, you know? I don't
Yeah.
know. I think that's nice though if they like incorporate that.
Yeah, I was kind of
Yeah.
surprised, I think it was my son's sophomore year in high school. I went to get him like, go do some clothes shopping and get some school supplies. And I'm like, so where's your school supply list? He's like, I don't have one. I'm like, well, how many notebooks do you need? I don't need any.
Yeah.
Surely you need some pens or pencils or, nope. I'm like, how are you gonna do homework? On my Chromebook. I mean, it's just, all of it? So, yeah, it was just crazy. And they paid for it. They paid
Yeah.
for the Chromebook.
Mhm.
And they're doing that in kindergarten too.
Yeah, kindergarten.
Wow. I think that's amazing. Yeah, my granddaughter, she already knows that like red buttons turn things off. And she knows how, she knew on my phone which one was the camera. She loves the camera.
How old is she?
16 months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So smart.
Wow.
Of course, be wary of them learning on the internet because it might conclude that the earth is flat.
Yeah, I'd love to find a way to be able to block all illicit sites that talk about things like flat earth and election fraud. Well, my daughter, it's funny you say that, because they named my granddaughter Zora, who is, Zora is it's from a character in the Zelda games, Legend of Zelda. They're a race of people that are lizard looking.
Oh, great. That'll work out well. No, I'm sure it will. Because she'll know that the crazy things people say, well, no, it's like a story, like the kind of stories that my family enjoys. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Megan, what's your writing area like? Is it cluttered or clean, or is it like a closet somewhere?
Or is it just one place, or is it
Yeah.
anywhere you are?
On the couch.
Obviously,
There.
I get the most work done at the library. I reserve a study room at the main branch, and I'll go there for like 3 or 4 hours. That's where I get most of my work done. But if I'm working from home, I just sit on the couch with my. Actually, I have a Chromebook too. But yeah, I don't really have like a designated space. My daughter, I kind of did at one point, but I kind of gave it to my daughter for her to do homework at. So we have a pretty small house, but yeah, I just sit on the couch or sit at the library.
I tell people I wrote my novel when I wasn't doing anything else at work. I
Oh,
had
yeah.
my iPad and I just write in between things I had to do for the job.
That's nice. And with my job, it was really affected by the pandemic, so I spend most of my time at home. So I do a lot of writing. And even before the pandemic, during downtime at work, I would write as well.
So you said you have several projects going.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a few things that I thought I would like to write about,
Mm-hmm.
and I find it hard to even take the first step to do any of it because I've got all these different ideas of projects that I want to do. Do you stay focused on one project and take it to the end, or do you kind of go back and forth?
I tend to go back and forth. Right now, I've been spending most of my time on the memoir because my publisher, he had an editor who also happens to be a therapist go through it, and so that was really helpful. So I'm just going through their suggestions right now. I've been working on that a lot, but I will go back and forth too. Earlier when I was working on my memoir, I would switch to the erotic poetry book because the memoir is pretty heavy. It's pretty serious, and But writing erotic poetry is just fun. so, if if the memoir was too much, I'd go write erotic poetry. So, but yeah, I go back and forth and stuff.
Do you kind of look at it kind of like a job and you devote a certain amount of time each week? Or do you ever just kind of like put all of it aside and say, I'm just not going to do anything for a couple of weeks? Or do you always stay kind of engaged with it?
I always stay engaged with it. I couldn't imagine not working on it. But no, the only time where I have designated time, reserve a room, I do that almost every Friday, and then sometimes during the week, the rest of the week too. But I don't know. I just work when I have time, really, most of the time.
Well, good for you for being disciplined.
Thank you.
Self-discipline. Maybe my ADHD meds aren't working quite as well as I would like them to.
I've actually been doing less writing since I've been retired because I'm taking up too much time playing the game.
Well, thank you. It was very interesting.
Thank you guys for
Very
having
approachable.
me. I was so nervous to come here today because I've been sick all week. And I did, this is the first in-person event I've done. So I was really excited about coming here, but I don't know, there was I've done all virtual events so far, and there was one event where I did it with a sinus infection. It was horrible. So I was I was hoping it wouldn't be that bad today, and it wasn't, so.
So glad you could come. This is
Thank
great.
you, thank you.
And just so you know, your book is also, Free to Roam is also available on Gathering Values
Oh,
search engine.
What's that?
Gathering Values is an independent bookstore in Perrysburg.
Oh, really?
I buy all my books there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an anti-Amazon.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I don't buy Amazon if I know, but sorry.
Me either.
Well, thanks for that, Ed. That's definitely where I'll.
But they use their, remember, some cooperative to do their book searches from, and
Wow.
shows up on their search.
That's really
Just
cool.
so
I
you
had
know.
no idea.
There
Thank
go.
you.
And you said you live, you're in Toledo now, you're not
Yeah, I'm in
Perrysburg
Toledo.
anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I love Toledo. I love living in Toledo.
Me
Great.
too.
I love just how diverse it is. And we live in DeVoe, and it just seems like everything's so close.
You must be right down the street from me.
I live on Brat.
Brett?
It's near Nash and Bowen.
Oh, okay, all right, on the other side, okay. Because we're right off of Douglas near Alexis,
Oh yeah, that's close.
on Schroeder.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The organization I work for has an apartment building there on Schroeder.
Oh, you work for MPI?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, our house, our backyard,
hmm
butts up to that apartment building.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They have the security lights in the front and the back that have destroyed the whole patio thing going on in my backyard. I mean, it's necessary.
Yeah.
I understand that, but yeah, it's a pain in the butt. They shine this way and this way, so I went out, I don't know, how many times did I go out there at night?
Yeah.
At different times of the day, trying to see, when the sun's going down here and when the lights are coming on over here, and mapping out exactly where those, I took stakes and stuff, rakes and brooms, and set out where the line is at night for where the lights are shining, so that when I dug up and put the patio on out back, it would be in the dark and not sitting in those bright lights. So it's interesting.
I guess I should have told you, my neighborhood's by Lasky and Douglas. So it's pretty close to you.
Yeah. It's very, within a mile.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I love living there.
Do you do shadow puppets and stuff?
I don't know. But once we get the fire pit, solidified, maybe we'll find out.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Well, I lived in Perrysburg Township for 30 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, out on 5 Point Road.
hmm
And then I moved into town, and then I moved to Swanton. But I worked at Rossford Library.
Oh,
So
really?
I probably saw your husband at some point.
Probably. He lived on, I think it was Thompson Road is where he grew up. Thompson Road. It's kind of
Oh, okay,
up by
yeah,
Target.
I know where that is.
Yeah.
Is that the one that curves around from up by 20, old 20, down and around back to 20, or?
I'm not sure. Are you thinking of the Crossroads or Crossroads of America
Yeah,
or whatever?
Yeah.
It's by there, yeah.
It's out in that no man's land.
Well, it's funny because my husband said, you know, when he was growing up, like none of that stuff was there, that Target and Walmart and, you know, and now everything's there.
Oh, the traffic's ridiculous. up there.
Yeah.
If there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today and socialize and mingle and do all that stuff. Just a reminder, we have a members meeting October 22nd at 7 p.m. Via Zoom, and people will get that link when we get close to it. If you're interested in running for the board, let me know, because then we're going to have the election before the meeting. And our next meeting, in-person meeting, will be November 20th. I'm hoping it's going to be at the Kent Library, but I have not heard back yet, so it'll be somewhere. All right. Thank you again, Megan, for joining us.
Thank
today.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.